Imagine a leaking vessel where you have to pour water continuously, forever, just to keep it from running empty. Yet when complex systems fail, we often blame the engineering. In reality, systemic failure usually happens because we apply the right strategy at the absolute wrong stage of a product's lifespan. Traditional user acquisition operates exactly like that leaking vessel. It relies on a linear funnel, losing users at every step, and demanding a constant, expensive influx of capital at the top just to maintain your baseline. This model compares two acquisition structures. On the left is the standard funnel with continuous drop-offs. On the right, a circular compounding loop. Instead of losing momentum, it feeds the output of one cycle directly into the next, recycling value to automatically acquire new users. Deploying loops requires precise timing. This graph represents the complete product lifecycle timeline, mapped across an S-curve into 4 distinct zones: introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. Teams must map testing protocols, engineered loops, and sunset frameworks to specific coordinates on this exact curve. Applying the wrong strategic tool to your current coordinate ensures that your potential exponential growth devolves into mathematical decline. We start by zooming in on the flat bottom left tail of the S-curve. This is the introduction stage, validating product-market fit. During this phase, user growth is intentionally slow, with negative unit economics as you invest heavily in understanding early adopters. Your strategic objective here is not high-volume user acquisition. It is strictly proving that the product delivers genuine value to its initial audience. Securing this validation requires stripping away opinion-based design and replacing it with rigorous, evidence-based A/B testing. You cannot scale on intuition. Every valid experiment begins with a logic formula. A strong hypothesis combines a specific change, user segment, measurable outcome, and behavioral rationale. For example, adding a progress indicator to mobile onboarding increases completion by 15% because visible steps increase psychological commitment. Once the hypothesis is set, you must establish strict mathematical parameters before launching the experiment to ensure your data is valid. Pre-launch, you must lock in your sample size, minimum detectable effect, and define your primary versus guardrail metrics. Guardrail metrics ensure optimizing your primary goal doesn't degrade the overall experience, like tracking crash rates to ensure a new feature isn't breaking the app. The most common error is stopping a test early because preliminary results look promising. This nearly always leads to false positives. Other critical errors include testing multiple overlapping variables at once, making it impossible to isolate the actual driver of change, or failing to segment user data, hiding that a change helps one cohort while harming another. This rigorous validation forms the product's foundation. Attempting to build compounding growth loops without this proven fit simply scales your flaws faster. With product-market fit validated, we travel up the timeline to the accelerating slope of the S-curve, the growth stage. Here, the focus pivots. Your mandate is no longer figuring out what works, but scaling engineered systems that accelerate acquisition. This is where we deploy growth loops. The core architecture requires that a single action creates immediate value for the user, while simultaneously generating new acquisition for the business. The first model is the viral loop, a 3-node cycle. An existing user shares a folder. To access it, the colleague must create an account, becoming a new active user. To survive, the viral coefficient, or K-factor, must exceed 1. The second model is the content loop, tracking the flow from user-generated content to external search engine indexing and back to new user discovery. Here, user-generated content acts as continuous fuel. Search engines index it, organically pulling in new searching users. A content loop's viability relies entirely on ruthlessly minimizing the friction of that initial step. If creating content is difficult, the loop starves. The third model is the paid loop. Revenue generated by acquired users is systematically reinvested to purchase more ads, funding further acquisition. To prevent collapse, the LTV to CAC ratio must be maintained. Lifetime value must be at least 3 times the acquisition cost. The universal law governing all 3 loops is behavioral alignment. They only function when they align with natural user behaviors, rather than forced artificial sharing comps. Shifting from a linear funnel to an engineered loop alters your financial reality. It transforms a linear marketing expense into a compounding, self-funding asset. Returning to our master timeline, we travel to the plateau at the peak of the S-curve, the maturity stage. Here, you have captured the bulk of your addressable market, so the rapid acquisition rate naturally flattens out. The strategic mandate shifts away from aggressive user acquisition. Success now requires maximizing customer lifetime value, defending retention, and securing incremental efficiency gains. Eventually, the product enters the decline stage. Shrinking user bases occur due to broad market shifts or competitive displacement, regardless of how perfectly you optimize the internal systems. You must watch for specific operational signals. When technical debt makes maintenance expensive, usage drops below minimum viability, or opportunity costs become negative, initiate a sunset conversation. The sunset framework involves 3 phases. Assess impact. Weigh the financial drag of maintenance against the affected users. Plan transition. Provide a 3 to 6 month timeline, communicating transparently and building data migration paths. Execute gracefully. Maintain rigorous product quality until the end to protect brand trust. Systematically sunsetting a product is not an engineering failure. It is a vital, strategic reallocation of resources away from a mathematically losing position. This brings us back to the fully populated master S-curve. Every framework we've discussed corresponds to a distinct phase of the timeline. Effective product management requires dynamically swapping your strategic toolsets based entirely on your current coordinate position along this curve. Every product team must continuously ask themselves one diagnostic question: are we currently learning, scaling, optimizing, or transitioning? Mapping rigorous experimentation and engineered growth loops to their specific temporal lifecycle stages removes emotional guesswork from the equation. By mastering these interconnected frameworks, you construct a sustainable, evidence-based engine capable of driving and defending a product's value across its entire lifespan.